Conditions are very useful, as they allow you to personalize your final user experience. They can, for example, make sure a field exists, or equal something specific in order to bring contextualized experiences to your user. So, first, we'll talk about the block anatomy and how it's constructed. Secondly, I'll explain how to set up all the operators, and we will go over each one specifically. And finally, I'll present you with some user examples to understand it better. So, let's get into it. The block anatomy. To understand the condition block better, I'll explain each part of the block. First of all, we have the input, where we write the variables that we want to check. Then comes the condition operator, where we tell the block what to do. I'll get into all the options later. Then comes the value or variable input, where we write the variable or a value that we want to check against the first one. If you type the value, it's important to type exactly as you want it to verify, as the block is case sensitive. Next comes the plus button. This is for when you want to add more than one rule to the block. Keep in mind that when adding new rules, they all have to be the same type in the block. And finally, the two different outputs of the block. There is the green output for when the condition in the block is true, and the red output for when the condition is false. Going back to the operators, there are 6 of them. Each one is different from the other, so the first one is equal to, used for when you want to check that a variable is equal to another variable or value. Then there's the does not equal to, used to make sure a variable is not completely equal to another variable or value. Next, contains, useful to check if a variable, for example a sentence or a word, includes a specific content. Greater than, only for variables that are numbers or dates. As the name says, to check if a variable is greater than another value or number. Make sure to use variables in the number or date format, as it will not work with the string format. Next, less than. Like with the last one, only for variables that are numbered or dates. In this example, we check if variable 1 is smaller than variable 2. And the final one is set. It basically checks if a variable has a value. In case it does, the flow will follow the green path. This operator is used to avoid asking for variables that we already have, in order to create a smoother conversation with the user. Note that after the value is set, it cannot be unset, so use this condition wisely. Great, so let's move into some useful examples. In this first example, we'll split the path as follows. If the field add email equals to elonmusk@tesla.com, we will share our phone number and tell him to call us immediately, since I still don't understand how they managed to land a vertical rocket on a platform. But if the email is not equal to elonmusk@tesla.com, we'll just ask for the name. Example 2. Check 2 possible conditions. Sometimes we need to check 2 or more conditions and redirect the flow accordingly. If the first condition block is true, the flow continues. If it's false, it goes to the next condition block. So, if the variable @city equals to Barcelona, the flow will follow the green path. If it's not Barcelona, it will follow the red path and check if the city equals to London, and so on. Example number 3. Sometimes we might need to categorize the number typed in by the user. And for that, we need to use the greater than and smaller than operators. For example, if the company size or number of employees selected by the user is between 0 and 6, then the lead is considered to be from a small company. If it's not between 0 and 6, it will check if it's between 5 and 15, and so on. Awesome, so let's recap. We easily constructed a condition block that allows you to hyper-personalize your final user experience. We have learned its block anatomy. We now know how to set operators up and learned what each one does specifically. And we have seen some practical examples on how the condition block can be useful in your bot. And that's an introduction to the conditions block.